As one topic closes, another will be introduced. Good day. This is Group 3, and we introduce a topic, the receptive skills of listening. The members are Maricel Mahusay, Princess Harmony Mancawan, Ryan John Sante, Marjorie Petalcurin, Vince Mirande, Rachel Nacasabog, Dia Marie Paderna, Lorangel S. Ochavo, and Junjun Orao. Before proceeding, and to make our report interactive, we would like you to listen attentively to a discussion and answer the given questions afterwards. This activity serves as a great tool for us to assess your listening comprehension and receptive skills and apply one of the crucial subtopics under our main topic. Let us now delve into the activity, and again, you, as a listener, must listen attentively.
A man is shopping during a sale. What will he buy?
Excuse me, do you only sell this shirt in packs of three?
We can sell them separately, sir. However, it is going to cost you more per shirt.
Alright, well, I don't need three of the same shirts.
You know, if you buy this set of 3 ties, we can give you a discount on shirts, so you can buy 3 for the price of 1.
I see, a set of three ties, and I also get to choose three shirts for the price of one.
That's right.
Okay, I don't need three shirts, but I'll give the other shirts to someone else.
That's a great idea, sir.
What will he buy? A. 3 shirts and 3 ties. B. 3 shirts. C. 1 shirt and 3 ties. D. 3 ties.
Excuse me, do you only sell this shirt in packs of three?
We can sell them separately, sir. However, it is going to cost you more per shirt.
Alright, well, I don't need three of the same shirts.
You know, if you buy this set of 3 ties, we can give you a discount on shirts, so you can buy 3 for the price of 1.
I see, a set of three ties, and I also get to choose three shirts for the price of one.
That's right.
Okay, I don't need three shirts, but I'll give the other shirts to someone else.
That's a great idea, sir.
The correct answer is letter A. 3 shirts and 3 ties. Great job!
Thank you for listening attentively and participating. We will now start introducing the topic, starting with the first reporter, Miss Maricel Mahusay.
Good day, everyone. I am Maricel Mahusay, and I'll be reporting about active listening skill. What is active listening skill? Active listening requires you to listen attentively to a speaker, understand what they're saying, respond and reflect on what's being said, and retain the information for later. To further explain, active listening is a communication skill that involves going beyond simply hearing the words that another person speaks but also seeking to understand the meaning and intent behind them. It requires being an active participant in the communication process. Active listening requires the listener to fully concentrate, understand, respond, and then remember what is being said. The importance of active listening skill. Listening is the most fundamental component of communication skills. Listening is not something that just happens. Listening is an active process in which a conscious decision is made to listen to and understand the messages of the speaker. In today's world of high tech and high stress, communication is more important than ever. However, we spend less and less time really listening to each other. Genuine, attentive listening has become rare. Active listening skills can help build relationships, solve problems, ensure understanding, and avoid conflict. By becoming a better listener, you'll improve your workplace productivity as well as your ability to lead a team, persuade, and negotiate. Benefits of active listening. There are many important benefits of active listening. This includes builds deep trust. As you cultivate the habit of listening sincerely, you invite people to open up. They can sense that you will not be jumping to conclusions based on superficial details. They also realize that you care enough about them to listen attentively. Broadens your perspective. Your own perspective in life is not the complete truth or how everyone else sees it. The way you understand life from your beliefs and thinking is only one way to look at it. Listening to other people's perspectives allows you to look at life from different perspectives, some of which you may not have thought of before. Strengthens your patience. The ability to be a good listener takes time and you need to develop it with regular efforts over time. But as you gradually get better and better at listening, an automatic benefit is that you develop patience. Patience to let the other person express his or her feelings and thoughts honestly while you don't judge. Makes you approachable. As you present yourself as a patient listener, people feel more naturally inclined to communicate with you. By being there for them, you give them the freedom to express their feelings. Increases competence and knowledge. Great listening skills make an employee more competent and capable, regardless of their position. Saves time and money. Effective listening not only reduces risk of misunderstanding and mistakes that could be very damaging to the business, but it also saves time and money by avoiding starting a task or a project over again. Next is helps detect and solve problems. As a leader, they should always be attentive to what employees have to say. In the workplace, they are the first ones to spot flaws and come up with suggestions for improvements. Listening to colleagues will help you understand what needs to be changed and work on to retain talent and make improvements. What makes a good listener? Good listeners actively endeavor to understand what others are really trying to say, regardless of how unclear the messages might be. Effective listeners make sure to let others know that they have been heard and encourage them to share their thoughts and feelings fully. You also need to show the person speaking that you're listening through nonverbal cues, such as maintaining eye contact, nodding your head and smiling, agreeing by saying yes. By providing this feedback, the person speaking will usually feel more at ease and communicates more easily, openly, and honestly. It is imperative to distinguish hearing from listening. According to Keely Workman, PSYD, a psychologist at Columbia University Medical Center, many people use the words hearing and listening interchangeably. However, there are several important differences between the two. Hearing is an accidental and automatic brain response to sound that requires no effort. We are surrounded by sounds most of the time. For example, we are accustomed to the sounds of cars, construction workers, and so on. We hear those sounds, and unless we have a reason to do otherwise, we learn to ignore them. Listening, on the other hand, is purposeful and focused rather than accidental. As a result, it requires motivation and effort. Listening means paying attention not only to the story, but how it is told, the use of language and voice, and how the other person uses his or her.
Good day, everyone. I am Princess Harmony Mancawan, and my topic is all about the nature and purpose of listening. Listening is the ability to accurately receive and interpret messages in the communication process. Listening is a key to all effective communication. Without the ability to listen effectively, messages are easily misunderstood. So there are three nature of listening. According to Brook 1993, listening is a complicated process which is composed of three stages. This includes first, the hearing or the receptions of a sound. Second, recognizing patterns or the association of sounds to one's experience or semantic knowledge. And lastly, the ODing, or the formulation of response after assigning meaning to the message. Listening involves paying attention, interpreting the message, and responding. When we listen, we also send nonverbal messages such as nodding, showing appropriate facial expression, or just maintaining eye contact to indicate that we understand the speaker's message. And for the purpose of listening, not only does listening enhance your ability to understand better and make you a better communicator, it also makes the experience of speaking to you more enjoyable to other people. Listening is a giving attention to a sound or action. When listening, a person hears what others are saying and tries to understand what it means. The act of listening involves conflict affective, cognitive, and behavioral. And for the continuous of purpose of listening, there are 5 stages which involve receiving, understanding, evaluating, remembering, and responding. Active listening is a particular communication technique that requires the listener to provide feedback on what he or she hears to the speaker. So, number 1, the receiving stage. The receiving stage of listening is the basic stage where an individual hears a message being sent by a speaker. The understanding stage of listening occurs when a receiver of a message attempts to figure out the meaning of the message. Second is the understanding stage. The understanding stage of listening is not only thus listening enhance your ability to understand better and make you a better communicator, it also makes the experience of speaking to you more enjoyable to other people. The third stage is the evaluating stage. This stage of listening process is the one during in which the listener assesses the information they receive both quantitatively and quantitatively. Evaluating allows the listener to form an opinion of what they heard, and if necessary, they begin developing a response. The fourth one is the remembering stage. The memory is essential throughout the listening process. We depend our memory to fill in the blanks when we are hearing at the moment in the content of what we heard before. And lastly, the responding. The responding stage is the stage of listening process in which the listener provides verbal or non-verbal reactions. A listener can respond to what they hear either verbally or non-verbally. And to end this topic, I want you to remember that being a listener is very important to us, especially when we want to become a better communicator. That would be all for my report. And for the next reporter is Vince Mirande for his topic, listening comprehension and sub-skills in listening.
Good day, everyone. I am Vince Mirande, and I am going to discuss listening comprehension and sub skills in listening. So, what is listening comprehension? Listening comprehension encompasses the multiple processes involved in understanding and making sense of spoken language. These include recognizing speech sounds, understanding the meaning of individual words, and or understanding the syntax of sentences in which they are presented. This communication skill is connected to cognitive learning as it works with the development of memory, attention, vocabulary, grammar, and comprehension monitoring. It is an active process in which the listener constructs meaning through using cues from contextual information and from existing knowledge. So, listening comprehension is a receptive skill, of course, as opposed to speaking, which is productive. However, it does not mean that it's a passive skill. Much to the contrary, listening comprehension is an interactive process. Also, it is not just hearing what is said, but it is the ability to understand the words and relate to them in some ways. So, for example, when you hear a story read aloud, good listening comprehension skills enable you to understand the story, remember it, discuss it, and even retell it in your own words. Okay, so we have here three comprehension skills. The first one being the basic comprehension. It is understanding what is directly stated in the passage. So it is pretty basic because the details are actually mentioned in the passage, and it is easy to understand, to recognize, and to connect these elements because they are not hidden. They are what makes the oral passage, or they have literal meanings. In this skill, we also try to understand the vocabularies which are also directly stated. And then we have pragmatic understanding. It is understanding the speaker's purpose or intention based on the context of the utterance. It's the ability to process linguistic knowledge, contextual cues, and principles of relevance to infer the speaker's communicative intention. So, this is the skill where you interpret the intention or even the stance of the speaker through his message. And lastly, we have connecting information. It's understanding a number of ideas and how they are related. In here, you understand the organization and the relationships of these ideas to the different elements to kind of like figure out the general idea of the passage. You also make conclusions based on the evidences you have gathered from the passage. It is very important to be exposed to different types of listening text for a variety of purposes so that we can develop a variety of listening strategies to use for different situations. And with that, I have here 5 sub skills in listening that we can use. First one is listening for gist. It involves general thematic understanding without any focus on specific details or discrete information. It is one among many types of listening and aims to answer primary questions related to an oral text's central theme, topic, and purpose. Gist is defined as the most important pieces of information about something or general information without details. It is just like skimming, and skimming means to run quickly over the oral message and get out the general idea. So we often do skimming when we are only trying to get the relevant ideas and thought to identify the main point of a particular message. So for example, have you tried listening to a YouTube video in 1.25 playback speed? Because that's an example of skimming. You're basically just trying to know the general point or to understand the big picture. You're not after every detail. And we have here extensive listening. In extensive listening, students often listen for pleasure. It includes listening to a large amount of text that learners can understand reasonably and smoothly. It is listening without being constrained by preset questions or tasks, and it does not require listening for specific information, for the exact words of a phrase or expression, or for details. For example, students choosing their favorite program on English radio to listen to every day. So this will actually be discussed more later. For the second sub-skill, we have listening for specific information. In here, we only have to understand specific or limited parts of the oral passage. We're not after the general idea, rather, we're merely listening to scoop a particular information from that passage. Also, we don't just do scanning and reading, we also do that in listening. So, scanning means to run over the oral message, looking for certain points. This is an important skill, especially when you're tasked to get certain information from a very lengthy recording, or if you're trying to gather data from an event for the news. So we can apply this skill when we're listening to weather forecasts and announcements in airports. So basically, when we listen to weather forecasts, we are just after the weather information in the location that we're currently at. We usually discard the other forecast for the rest of the places. Now let's proceed to the third subskill, which is the predictive listening. It is making assumptions about the information we are going to receive as we listen to a particular audio or oral passage. We do this when we anticipate the meaning of a particular part of the passage or even the whole message by selecting small number of specific samplings from the partial portion that we have heard from it. This skill can help you develop ideas about the topic or the context. For example, you've planned to listen to a story you've never heard before, and upon hearing the title, If you have this skill, you would be able to anticipate the possible plot and vocabularies in the story. And while you're listening to it, you could possibly predict the next thing that is going to happen. So it's really beneficial to have this skill. The fourth sub-skill is inferential listening. This refers to the type of listening in which we have to reach conclusions based on the information we hear. This is the technique of inferring, meaning using clues and prior knowledge about a situation to work out the meaning of what we hear. To infer is to conclude, and we can infer from the use of words in the particular conversation, just like the dialogue of the sales lady and the shopper in our activity a while ago. By using contextual clues and our knowledge of the world, we can work out what's being said, who is speaking, and what's taking place. And then lastly, the evaluative listening. In this skill, you listen critically to the message and directly evaluate and interpret it. It's also known as critical, judgmental, or interpretive listening. It's a type of listening where people make judgment about the speaker and what he/she is trying to say. Generally, people seek to assess the truth or the fact behind what is said. Sometimes people speak against each other's values and assess them as good or bad, morally correct or not, worthy or not. Evaluative listening also shows your ability to process information and then formulate into your own feelings. So this is very particular or pertinent when the other person is trying to persuade or convince us. This is done to change our behavior or maybe change our mindset or beliefs. So that is all for my report. The next topic will be listening techniques and strategies, which will be discussed by Nacasabog. Thank you so much for listening.
Good day, everyone. I am your next reporter, Nacasabog, and I will be reporting the listening techniques and strategies. Many students are still struggling with listening comprehension, and the main issue that hinders a student is the lack of focus and attention to the speaker and short-term memory. But with the help of listening techniques and strategies, the student can cope with these issues and improve their listening skills. So what are listening techniques and strategies? Listening techniques and strategies are a way to become a good and effective listener. These techniques and strategies develop how to accurately receive information and listening comprehension. Among the number of listening techniques and strategies that can be found on the internet, I have prepared the 7 most important techniques and strategies in listening. So the first listening techniques and strategies is maintain eye contact with the speaker. When you are listening to the speaker, you have to set your mind that you are in the present and stay focused on the person talking. You should avoid looking out at the window, texting, or scrolling down on your phone, and stay away from things that triggers distractions. Second, visualize what the speaker is saying. Visualization is an exercise that can help to better understand the speaker. You can use this technique by trying to create mental images of what the speaker is talking about while you are listening. In this way, it will help the students to effectively retain information and remember what the concept is all about for a long time. Third, be open as you listen. Do not judge the perspective of the speaker. If you happen to disagree about his or her opinion, try to find out why the speaker thinks this way. Try to consider his or her ideas and listen with an open mind. Give yourself some time to think and reflect, and try to avoid concluding too quickly, and you will realize that the speaker has made sense. Fourth, do not interrupt. Giving questions is important to clarify things you don't know about. But if someone is delivering their message, try to raise your concern or opinion after the speaker has done talking. Interrupting may confuse the speaker about what he or she is about to say and ends up sending the wrong message. Fifth, ask clarifying questions. Asking clarifying questions helps to keep the conversation on the topic. If you wish to ask a question, it should be related to the topic rather than ask a question that is not related to the main idea the speaker is trying to say. Next, ensure that you are fully paying attention, not just hearing the words but understanding their text. You have to process the information that the speaker is trying to say by analyzing and evaluating his or her thoughts, not just merely listening but not paying attention to the content. You will know if you understand the context when you are capable of reflecting on your understanding of any situation. For you to fully grasp the information, you need to be committed to listening and comprehending the content that the speaker is trying to convey. And lastly, practice listening. Mastering listening skills needs a lot of practice. To effectively practice listening, try to write down what you have heard, understood, and acknowledged after the discussion or lecture or after listening to audiobooks and podcasts. Try listening to no more than 4-minute clips and summarize them in your own words to see how much information you can retain. This will help you to become more aware of your role as a receiver of information, and it can enhance your overall listening and communicative skills. So why does listening is an important skill to develop? Listening skills are pivotal because aside for good communication and better relationship, it also helps you to learn the language. When you listen to a conversation or discussion in English, you try to understand every word and its pronunciation. By listening, they will know the proper way to deliver a speech and the speaker's choice of vocabulary structure. Moreover, students must have these skills because it helps them to better prepare for assignments and exams. If they listen carefully, they can fully grasp the instructions, pointers, and feedbacks and improve their performance at school. And that will be all for the listening techniques and strategies. And now, for the next reporter, we have Miss Lorangel Ochavo, and her topic is all about approaches in teaching listening. Thank you for listening.
There are 3 approaches to teaching listening: bottom up, top down, and interactive. First is the bottom up approach. The bottom up approach incorporates listening exercises that help learners distinguish individual words, phrases, and clause divisions, as well as important linguistic characteristics of the words and sentences. These exercises also help learners improve bottom-up processing. Moreover, it constructs meaning from little components such as sounds, words, and the like. According to Salizadi in 2006, the following can be utilized and are effective bottom-up listening strategies. First, focus on stressed words, which means listening for longer, louder words, which are usually nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. These words carry the most important information. Second, pay attention to repeated terms and pauses. Take these as cues for possible key points in the lecture. And the third is to keep going, meaning to avoid trying to understand every word. In spoken language, not all words are important, nor are they always grammatical. The next approach is top-down. Top-down approaches concentrate on the big picture and encompassing message of a listening text. The discussion of the matter is frequently followed by the use of a meaningful or comprehensive assignment to listen for the analysis and interpretation. Additionally, in order to improve comprehension, top-down listening places words in context and makes use of prior knowledge. According to Salizadi, in 2006, the following can be utilized and are effective top-down listening strategies. Before lecture, review and predict lecture topics. This includes the following: reviewing the assigned material, considering how new information will relate to previous lectures, identifying the organization pattern, in other words, problem or solution, literature review, and many more. Noting the number of main topics being covered and how they are related, and listening for phrases that introduce, summarize, or shift topics. After the lecture, continue to engage with the topic, which includes the following: reviewing your notes for any incomplete information, and going to friends or going to office hours with questions about information you missed. The last approach to teaching listening is interactive. In this, you have to know how to start your lesson in an interactive way, just like what we did in this report, wherein we made an interactive pre-listening activity. Learner input should be taken into consideration. The teacher provides a lesson, the students take it in, digest it, and internalize it, and they should be able to apply what they learned from the teacher's discussion. As a result, the students will become active listeners rather than passive ones. Furthermore, the process of listening is interactive and two-way. Listening is an active process in which we, as listeners, participate. This means we have to put effort into deriving meaning from the noises our ears pick up and employ as needed. This involves generating questions and dialogue based on the information retrieved. My part ends here. Let's listen to the next presenter, Sir Junjun Orao.
Good day everyone, I am Orao Junjun and I'm going to discuss or report about the lesson design in teaching listening. So let's get started. So, what is the meaning of a lesson plan? A lesson plan is a detailed description of the instructional strategies and learning activities to be performed during the teaching or learning process. A lesson plan is a teacher daily guide for what students need to learn, how it will be taught, and how learning will be measured. Teaching listening. Listening skills are vital for your learners. Out of the 4 skills, listening is by far the most frequently used. And I think you already know that we have 4 different macro skills in communication, including listening, speaking, writing, and reading. So now, we have the 3 basic structure of listening. Before listening, or the pre-listening, during listening, or while listening, and after listening, or the post-listening. So before listening, prepare your learners by introducing the topic and finding out what they already know about it. And we have the 3 focal points of this: motivation, contextualization, preparation. Motivation, it is mostly important that before listening, students are motivated to listen. The contextualization, the text has been taken from its original environment, and we need to design tasks that will help students to contextualize the listening and access their existing knowledge and expectations. Preparation. To do the task, we set students while they listen. There could be specific vocabulary or expressions that students will need. During listening, be specific about what students need to listen for. When we listen to something in our everyday lives, we do so far for a reason. Students need a reason to listen that will focus their attention. After listening, or the post-listening, Finish with an activity to extend the topic and help students remember new vocabulary. So there's two reaction of the text, analysis of the language. So reaction of the text, this could be a discussion as a response to what we've heard, though they agree or disagree, or even they hear what they have heard. And for the analysis of language, this is important in terms of developing their knowledge of language, but less so in terms of developing students' listening skills. But before I show you the detailed lesson plan in teaching listening, allow me to mention the 7 steps that you can follow when planning a listening for a lesson plan, or it can be a lesson design in teaching listening. The first one is set the context. This introduces the theme of your listening topic. For example, if your listening is about shopping, you could ask students whether or not they ever buy things without trying them on whether or not they had good or bad experience with that. Number 2 is the pre-listening task. You'll need to assign students for a pre-reading test like that. And number 3 is listening number 1. You can provide anything that gives them a reason to listen. Then number 4 is listening number 2. Give students some more difficult comprehension questions. And if you're using a listening passage to introduce a grammar concept, students could listen for that specific item. Number 5 is the pronunciation. It could be an optional. If there are some words that are difficult to pronounce, or your students particularly struggle with this, then you may want to focus a little bit on pronunciation. You can do some drills and practice using the words from the listening passage. Number 6 is the application. Students have to apply the concepts from listening to their own lives in order to make it more memorable. And the last one, the 7, is the follow-up. After finishing this, the sky is the limit in terms of what you can do. You might consider switching over to focus on other skills, such as speaking or writing. Or you could have students do a presentation related to listening passage. Maybe you can play a game of some kind of with theme. Always be creative in terms of how you teach or how the way you do to what the students have to listen to. So here we go. Now I'm going to discuss the detailed lesson plan in teaching listening. This is just an example of teaching listening or a lesson design. So the topic is listening to different intonation patterns to construct meaning. And our objectives, at the end of the 45-minute English class, the students are expected to listen to discriminate precisely between intonation patterns used in speeches. Next is listen to point out implication in speeches and respond to speeches according to manner of its delivery. Number 2 is the subject matter, input and content, recognizing intonation patterns. And references and instructional materials. The instructional materials are flashcards, activity sheets, and hardboards. The procedure. There is the 2 column, the teacher's activity and student's activity. The teacher starts with a greeting, prayer, routine, especially in attendance, and also review of what been discussed for the last meeting, and the most important one is the motivation. Motivation is the part where the teachers need to motivate its students to start the class. The pre-listening, so the teacher are going to put the intonation patterns into a larger picture that is we're going to put into the sentences. So the teacher here now is showing flashcards and read the sentences in a twice, and want you do is to listen carefully. You are going to raise a finger if you hear the resonant intonation on the first reading and two fingers if it is the second. You're going to answer after I give you the signal. It's the signal. So this is the activity for a pre-listening. Next one is the during listening. So the intonation patterns in the community. So it can be distinguished one intonation pattern from the other. Post listening, and it could be a game like knock knock who's there. So the teacher is having a game for the students to that are related to listening. And for the assignment, no, but in the assignment, please note that assignment may vary according to teacher's own plan of lesson to the next day. This is only a simple plan. So that is the example of the detailed lesson plan in terms of teaching listening.
Good day, everyone. I am Dia Marie Paderna, and my topic is all about materials and resources for teaching listening. There are different kinds of materials. First is authentic materials. This include anything that is unscripted. Example are live lectures and seminars, English you hear on television and radio such as weather reports, and English spoken outside the classroom or conversation. Course book materials. This may include stimulated lectures and seminar presentation. It is semi-scripted listening task from coursebook. Scripted text is the one that is written down before the speaker speaks, so it is less natural. However, unscripted text is the one that is not written down in advance but often harder to follow because in real life people do not speak in an organized or structured way. Traditionally, listening skills have been developed in the classroom by the teachers through different materials such as using audio files and graded listening activities. However, nowadays, educators can use different websites and apps to develop students' listening skills. These are the examples of the websites and apps that can be used for listening skills. One is Lyrics Training. It is an app where students can choose songs in a variety of languages. They can choose the level of difficulty, and this app will help students to listen multiple times without getting bored. This app works on the web browser. Second is Listen Notes. It is a podcast search engine with a huge collection of podcasts on a wide range of topics. Podcasts are a great source of listening materials for students and can be easily downloaded onto mobile devices. 3 is Accent Rosie. It is a free app that works with Messenger and sends students short audio clips. They can write down what they hear and can get instant feedback on how much they got correct. 4th is TeachVid. It is a combination of listening and watching video. It has different activities such as text construction, translation, multiple choice, jumbled sentences, and more. It also helps teachers since they can create activities in this app and can create as well a classroom to share to their students the different assignments and track their results. 5 is Read Aloud. This is an app in which a text-to-speech voice reader that can be plugged into Google Chrome or Firefox browser. As it reads, it highlights text so students can see words as they hear. 6 is Synth. It is an app that is interesting way to make podcasts and make it more interactive and engaging. You can record your podcasts, message, question, or audio file that students can listen when they can as well as they can record their reply or add to your message. 7 is Fluid Data. It is an app or tool for anyone who is interested in improving their listening skills. At the same time, learning different lexical items that appear in authentic speech. 8 is Listen and Write. This app is almost the same with lyrics training. It's just that it has a wider variety of source materials. It is based on what you hear in writing it down as well as selecting a level of challenge. 9 is SpeakPipe. This app allows you to create your own short video files, upload to the link, and can share it to students. 10th and last app is Video Converter. It is an app or a tool that is used for separating audio from video and for converting files for uses in different formats on different devices. These different examples of app and websites is arranged in a variety of resources that are available for helping educator develop their listening skills. That would be all for my report.
Good day everyone, my name is Marjorie Petalcurin and I was tasked to discuss about performance and observation-based assessment in teaching listening. First, let us define performance and observation-based assessment. Performance-based assessment measures students' ability to apply the skills and knowledge learned from a unit or units of study. In particular, small units of listening such as sounds, words, and the likes. And observation-based assessment means that you are observing the result of the listening performance and not just observing the listening performance. To put it simply, it is observing the result of learners' performance in listening skills and measuring their ability with the assessment given. So, there are 4 basic types of listening performance that can be assessed. First, we have the intensive listening. In intensive listening practice, you are paying most attention to pronunciation, grammar, and vocabulary rather than the overall meaning. This form of listening is often assessed in an ESL setting as a way to measure an individual's phonological, morphological, and ability to paraphrase. So, for example, in phonological elements include phonemic consonant and phonemic pairs. For instance, there are recordings that you have to listen to and you have to identify and analyze the appropriate meaning. So in the first recording, it states that he's from Thailand. And the choices are A, he's from Thailand, and letter B, she's from Thailand. Obviously, the answer is letter A. The confusion of the given problem is with adding S in the she for the choices. So, next is morphological elements. For example, the recording is I smiled a lot, and the choices are letter A, I smiled a lot, letter B, I smile a lot. Now, if you listen carefully based from the choices, you can see that phonological and morphological stresses the active and attentive listening skills of the students, because if not, they might have a wrong answer. So the answer in the choices obviously is letter A, I smiled a lot. Another example of intensive listening assessment is paraphrasing, or the ability to paraphrase. When we say paraphrasing, it involves listening to an example of recording where you are able to reword it in an appropriate manner. This involves not only listening but also vocabulary selection. For example, the recording is, my name is James. I come from California. So the choices are letter A, James is Californian. Letter B, James loves California. As you can see, this is trickier because both can be true. However, the goal is to try and rephrase what was heard. So the answer and the assessment is letter A. James is Californian. Now, responsive listening. Responsive listening assessment allows a student to supply an answer to a question that is derived from what they were listening to. This is in many ways a practical way to assess an individual's basic understanding of conversation. Responsive listening involves listening to a small amount of a language such as command, question, or greetings. After listening, the students expected to develop an appropriate short response. So, there are two assessments that can be done in responsive listening. One is open-ended response to a question. This assessment can use simple and basic questions or broad questions and can be answered in detail. For a simple question, you can simply ask, "What is your name?" and "Where do you live?" Or broad questions such as, "Tell me about your relationship with your supervisor," or "What is the purpose of the government?" An open-ended question are questions that cannot be answered with a yes or no. In that way, listeners should either give appropriate answer or get creative to express their answers. Another responsive listening assessment is suitable response to question. Example of suitable response to question often use multiple choice answers that the students select from in order to complete the questions. So number 3 is selective listening. Selective listening tasks focus the learner's attention on key parts of the discourse. By noticing key parts of the discourse, the learners can build up their understanding of the overall meaning by inferring or filling in what they have missed. So activities used in selective listening are: number 1, promoting attempts to listen to a range of authentic spoken language, that is, to a range of speakers, topics, and situations. Number 2, focusing expectations on understanding the main ideas of a text and on completing a specific task. And number 3, providing pre-listening work which helps the learner understand the overall function and organization of the listening extract. So the key features of the activities in this section are: the learners focus on selected information as they listen. The learners have the opportunity for a second listening to check their understanding. The teacher makes frequent use of recorded materials. The teachers provides warm-up activities prior to listening. The teachers set a purpose before listening. The teacher requires minimal use of written language during activity. And lastly, the teachers gives immediate feedback following the activity. The fourth basic types of listening performance is the extensive listening. Extensive listening will usually take place outside the classroom. Extensive listening is a way to practice your English listening skills. Extensive listening tasks focus on macro skills of listening, such as inferring situations, goals, and participants based on real-world knowledge, distinguishing between implied and literal meanings, and using a variety of listening strategies such as detecting keywords, using context to guess the meaning of word. It involves learners listening to a wide range of text for enjoyment and to develop general reading skills. That's why extensive listening can have a dramatic effect to a student's language learning, because it is listening for pleasure and enjoyment. So I can say that it really does have a dramatic effect on our listening skills, because I remember when I was a kid, I used to listen music and drama sa radyo dayon ipang sulata dayon ako ang mga part sa kanta nga akong masabnan or kanang mga intro sa drama nga kanang mga quotes or saying kanang labi na gid sa kanang mga tsada kay siya paminawon nga quotes, so makarelate jud ka nga diha nag-start imong kanang language acquisition kay tungod sa listening, extensive listening. So yes, I agree that extensive listening has a dramatic effect to the students, especially when we listen to inspiring story or about gospel sa church, especially because it's our experience in listening where we able to reflect and absorb the meaning of the words we heard. And yes, so that's all for the performance and observation-based assessment in teaching listening. Now, for our last reporter, let me call on Mr. Ryan Sante.
Hi, I am Ryan. Happy listening. I am going to discuss the last subtopic, which is feedbacking on assessing listening skills. So what are the importance of giving feedback on assessing listening skills? Giving feedback is an essential part of assessing listening skills. It helps the listener understand their strengths and weaknesses and provide guidance on how they can improve their listening skills. So here are some ways to provide effective feedback when assessing listening skills. First, use specific examples. When giving feedback, provide specific examples of where the listener excelled or struggled. This can help them understand exactly what they did well or need to work on. Second, be constructive. Feedback should be constructive, not critical. Provide suggestions for improvement in a positive and supportive manner. Third, focus on the message. When assessing listening, focus on whether the listener understood the message, not just on whether they heard it. This means assessing their comprehension, not just their ability to hear words. Fourth, use a variety of assessment methods. Use a variety of assessment methods such as quizzes, discussions, or role-playing exercises to get a comprehensive understanding of the listener's skills. Fifth, provide feedback in a timely manner. Provide feedback as soon as possible after the listening activity to ensure the listener can remember the details of their performance. Sixth, encourage self-reflection. Encourage the listener to reflect on their own performance and identify areas for improvement. This can help them take ownership of their learning and develop their listening skills further. Seventh and last, set goals. Help the listener set goals for improving their listening skills and provide feedback on their progress towards achieving those goals. Overall, effective feedback when assessing listening skills should be specific, constructive, and focused on the message. By using a variety of assessment methods, providing feedback in a timely manner, and encouraging self-reflection, you can help listeners improve their listening skills and become more effective on this macro skill, which is the listening. That's all. Thank you.